Hi, I want to talk about new construction, specifically about apartments. So, if you want to buy a new apartment, I have three tips for you. The first one would be at the moment of the purchase, you can ask if the sales price is fixed or not. Um, I think that would be a prudent thing to ask, especially in today's market, because the costs for building materials keeps going up. So if your costs aren't fixed, your apartment might get more expensive as time progresses. So the longer it takes, the more you risk that the price is going to go up. I think not everyone is offering that. As a matter of fact, I think most don't. But I know that there are some promoters that do offer fixed costs, and so I think it's at least worth asking. The second thing is about the spec sheet. In Luxembourg, we call that a cahier de charge, which is basically a list that lists all the materials that are being used in your apartment, but also in the common areas of the building. And the important part about the spec sheet is that you need to make sure that it's as detailed as possible. I know of some people that have bought an apartment where the spec sheet was very vague, and that's a very obvious way for the promoter to later say, hey, that vent system that wasn't included in the spec sheet. So if you want it, you can have it, but it will be an extra cost. This is a specific example of a garage, for example, where no ventilation system was built in, so there was humidity building up, and so a ventilation system was absolutely needed, and it was recommended by experts, but the clients had to pay for it because it wasn't in the spec sheet. Um, of course, if a company has created a vague spec sheet for all the customers and they aren't willing to create a more detailed one, maybe that's a reason to look elsewhere. Because I think most promoters actually do a really good job about that. They list everything that they are going to use, and they are going to even give you some options. But having a vague spec sheet is a danger for more costs later. And I think it's actually a trick of some of the promoters to make the apartment appear cheaper than it ultimately is going to be. The third thing I want to mention is that during the construction, I think the client should at least be allowed to come inspect the progress once in a while, because what happens, for example, if you wait until the key handover to get into the apartment, and then you realize that they laid tiles in the entire apartment when you asked for hardwood floors, for example, right? So I think an inspection on your part could avoid major mistakes, and they could be rectified before you get the key handover. Because if you're supposed to get the keys and then you realize, okay, there's a bunch more work to do, well, then your key handover is going to be delayed. Now, I know of some clients that have been denied access to their apartment because this was a huge construction, so there were lots of apartments in this building, and the reasoning was that if they allowed everyone to go inspect the apartment, it would be a safety hazard because there would be too many people circulating in the building. But I think an inspection should at least be possible by appointment, so that you have one of their employees with you, and so that you can inspect as you go along to make sure that no major mistakes are made. So I hope this helps. If you got more questions about this, let me know and I'll try to answer.